begin the speakers, we have Mr. Richard Geno of the Silicon Valley Conservative Forum. Many of you have seen him before. Richard, come on up.
Yay! Okay, we're here again. I just wanted to see how the modulating the speaker was right in my ear, so can you hear me in the back? Okay, is the sound okay? I just want to make sure I don't blow the people out in front. Here we go again. It was just 2 years ago that the first Tea Party was held in San Jose, right here in downtown San Jose. In February 2009, Rick Santelli's rant from the Chicago Board of Trade ushered in a new party for the United States of America. We have literally changed the political landscape since then. But do you remember back in those early days? The President of the United States, in his usual disingenuous way, acted as if we did not exist. He dismissed the hundreds of thousands who were demonstrating all over the country to protest his health care and his stimulus plans by saying that he had never heard of the Tea Party. Then, Queen Nancy Pelosi entered the scene. Do you remember what she called us? AstroTurf. As it turns out, she was intimately familiar with AstroTurf because she and her supporters, as we have witnessed since, bus in fake supporters to support their issues consistently. But we have not been AstroTurf. As we grew across the land in 2009, the supporters of Obama, Reid, and Pelosi infiltrated some of our Tea Party meetings across the country to cause trouble. Each of these incidences were documented by videographers of the Tea Party, and the charge we were violent went away. Having failed at ignoring us, and then failing with the accusations of AstroTurf and violence, they started calling us racists. Can anyone here tell me why people who advocate limited government, encourage fiscal responsibility, and support free markets are racist? Anyone? I have observed three things about the collectivist left politicians in the United States. First, whenever they cannot argue their political point, they immediately resort to name-calling. Secondly, in the national political arena, they begin and end their campaigns with name-calling. And thirdly, the names they choose usually telegraph who they themselves really are. They can use the argument that they called us that first. Having struck out with name-calling, they have now recognized the fact that we are part of the largest mainstream protest in America in our lifetimes, the American Tea Party. Even Wikipedia, I looked up Wikipedia for Tea Party, and it says the Tea Party protests, part of a larger political movement called the Tea Party, are a series of protests across the country that began in 2009 that focuses on smaller government, fiscal responsibility, individual freedoms, and upholding a conservative view of the Constitution. In other words, we believe in the Constitution and support the principles of conservatives like Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison, and George Washington. I suggest that this group represents better role models than Saul Alinsky, Karl Marx, William Ayres, and Frank Marshall Davis. What do you think?
Yay! Right.
Now here's a short story that you can share with your Democratic Socialist friends. Small d, not capital D. Small d, Democratic Socialist friends. 10 families live in a cul-de-sac. Picture it, 10 families in a cul-de-sac. One family has 4 cars. They have a teenage driver and they have an extra car. 3 families have 3 cars. 5 families have 2 cars, and 1 family has just 1 car. Everything's going along smoothly. They seem to have what they need. But the car owned by the family with only 1 car breaks down. Now I have a question. Could the family with 4 cars offer the use of one of its cars to the family with only 1 car that is now broken down? Would that be okay? Yes, of course. Now assuming they do not, though, offer one of their cars, would it be okay for the guy with no functioning car to go across the street with a gun and take one of the 4 cars? Would it make any difference if the neighborhood voted on it.
No.
That's what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
In just 2 short years, the government of the United States has moved from a country that offers equal opportunity to all to a country whose goal is to deliver equal results. This approach hurts everyone in society, the rich, the poor, and the middle class. We have seen some of the results in the past 18 months. Due to uncertainty in what government will do next, the rich are sitting with billions of dollars on the sideline, not hiring. Now, would you invest into a situation where the government has carte blanche support to regulate your business? On March 25th, just a few weeks ago, the city of San Francisco established rules of business that would have been considered rigid in Stalin's Soviet Union or Mao's China. As Ronald Reagan famously said, government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. Our federal budget shows that the main business of the United States government today is taking money from one group of people and transferring it to others. We're spending over 70% of government revenue on payments to individuals. We're no longer talking about becoming a welfare state. Our nation has become a welfare state. And more than we would like to believe, we have become addicted. Now, Thomas Jefferson, probably the brightest of the founding fathers, said, "To take from one because it is thought his own industry has acquired too much." You remember when Obama said, "I think there's a point where people have made enough money"? When they have done this, in order to spare to others who have not exercised equal industry and skill, is to violate arbitrarily the first principle of association, the guarantee to everyone the free exercise of his industry and the fruits acquired by it. That's what Thomas Jefferson said over 200 years ago. Also, each of us needs to stop talking as if we're only creating a problem for our children and grandchildren. I think that makes us feel pretty good. But think about this. Based on the continuance of the Obama trillion-dollar deficits, we will have a national debt of $20 trillion by 2016. Does anybody remember Jimmy Carter's years in the late 1970s when interest rates were 21.5%? If interest rates edge up to just 5 or 6%, which is not at all unrealistic, the interest payment on the national debt will be more than our current outlay for Social Security and Medicare combined. So this is not something that's going to happen to our children. It's going to happen to us. This isn't like having our outside temperature rise by 1 or 2 degrees by the end of the century. This is being unable to pay our unsustainable obligations before the end of the decade. And we need to tell the Republicans that $38.5 billion cuts are petty cash and an insult to people who sent them there to Congress.